will be Jerry, my love, my life partner, my friend. You were for Ghana and then for me.
Plus, President Akufo-Addo announces plans of naming UDS after the late Rawlings.
Also, more reason to wear a mask and observe the COVID-19 safety protocols as several recovered COVID-19 patients are diagnosed with post-infection complications, including heart problems and erectile dysfunction.
I was saying that there are people who are documented athletes who have even run race marathons who can now barely walk like 100 meters without having to stand and then gasp for breath. Weeks after, months after COVID, imaging studies have shown that the lung tissue does not return to its normal level.
More as the GMA cautions against the practice of elbow greetings.
Is the potential that if you sneeze viral particles over the groove of your elbow, it can certainly move and you can find it on the other side. In that case, it is best not to go giving people the elbow shake at all.
And still on COVID-19, GMA calls for investigations into growing resentment among caregivers at the Comfort Noche Teaching Hospital over the management of COVID-19 cases at the facility.
Any case that threatens the life of any health worker should be looked at and shouldn't be swept out of the condition.
Also in this bulletin, former President Mahama to call two witnesses, NDC General Secretary Johnson Asedu Nketia and former National Service Boss Dr. Michael Pesa-White to testify on his behalf in the election petition hearing. We have details.
Also coming up in business, we explore the economic legacy of the late President Rawlings and how it shaped Ghana's development.
Pay your players well if you want them to remain in the Ghana Premier League. That's the message from GACA chairman Kojo Fiano to Ghanaian clubs. Details later in sports.
And much later here on Newsnight, hydrogen peroxide now in short supply on the Ghanaian market after publication of study showing its use for gargle may help to reduce COVID-19 spread in the lungs.
And a number of our colleagues in the research team who work in healthcare institutions, have been using hydrogen peroxide. None of them has come down with the disease.
We have details as the Pharmacy Council and the Food and Drugs Authority issue a joint statement warning of fake brands on the market. You can join us with your views and comments here on Newsnight on our WhatsApp platform at 055-1111-997. We're streaming live on Facebook. You can leave your message there. I'm Ernest, Manu.
And I'm Araba Koomson.
This has been so unexpected that translating anything to words has proven harder than we could have imagined. With every stage of our lives, you remain consistent with your mantra on life. Walk your path, know your purpose, live your life.
Ghanaians from all walks of life have been paying their last respects to Ghana's longest-serving president, Jerry John Rawlings, at a state funeral held today to bid farewell to the man credited with Ghana's Fourth Republic, Zaneto, Yasantoa, Amina, and Kimathi, in a radiant tribute, described their father as a man who pushed them to go beyond the ordinary.
At a ceremony at the Black Star Square, first daughter Zaneto Ajman Rawlings, who epitomized her father, described him as a friend and a warrior. Here, excerpt of that tribute.
This has been so unexpected that translating anything to words has proven harder than we could have imagined. Never succumbing to the mundane of life, you raised us to challenge the ordinary and to push beyond our comfortable boundaries. You taught us to stand up for those who could not, even at the risk of standing alone. We were never too young or too small to be privy to your thoughts, which you shared on world politics, on the inequity of the world economic system, on the plight of people of Africa. With every stage of our lives, you remain consistent with your mantra on life. Walk your path, know your purpose, live your life, make your mistakes and learn from them. Take ownership of your actions. In all this, be guided by your inner spiritual radar. Most importantly, never let your feet leave the ground.
And so that's Zanetta Rawlings reading that tribute on behalf of her siblings, a tribute to their father. Now his wife, the former First Lady, Nana Konadu Rawlings, tells of the unusual love relationship that sustained their union and built a strong nation.
Jerry, I know that God created us for each other, and today we make a formidable team, notwithstanding the ups and downs of life. We believed in each other and in our dream of making Ghana a country we could all be proud of, one to set the pace for our sub-region and continent. I dare say we did not do a bad job. As you worked assiduously on state matters, I concentrated on empowering the women and improving the quality of life for them. Irrespective of their origins or creed, we were a team fighting to transform a collapsed state into one of potential prosperity for all. You did your best, and I played my part in my own way. You always said you did not need titles to define you, so you remained Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. You also said you did not need political titles to influence a party to do what is right and honest for Ghana. So for most, you remained chairman. To me, you were and always will be Jerry, my love, my life partner, my friend. You were for Ghana and then for me. I say farewell with the words of Rachel Wallace.
Sad one.
Very
there.
emotional one there.
She
She struggled to finish it. Zanetta had to encourage
You can
her.
all feel her pain. But of course, the president also paid glowing tribute to Mr. Rawlings, and he announced that the University of Development Studies will be named after the former president.
Whilst he was with us, he respectfully declined an offer I made to him in 2017 to have the University of Development Studies Tamale, UDS, which he personally helped establish, named after him. His reason was that, in adhering to a long-standing principle, he did not want to have any national monument or facility named after him. 2 days after his passing, at the 21st congregation of UDS, I expressed my strongest convictions, in spite of his reservation, that such an honor should be accorded him. I am glad that this has found favor with his family, and the necessary formalities will be carried out to achieve this. That is, Jerry John Rawlings University of Development Studies, Tamale.
Of course, the president also spoke about his own relationship with the late former President Rawlings. Listen.
It was no secret that the relation that existed between the two of us, right from the heady days of 1979 through to my brief period in exile, his assumption of office as the first president of the Fourth Republic, the historic Kumiprako demonstrations, my period as Attorney General and Minister for Foreign Affairs in the Kufuor administration, to be my elected the 2008 NPP presidential candidate, was one of open animosity. We did not see eye to eye. However, with time, things changed. We came to see value in each other and understood to a very large degree our respective perspectives. One thing we had in common was our mutual commitment to public service. My visit to his ridge residence in 2012 signified the easing of tensions between us, leading to a friendship that lasted for the better part of some 8 years. Indeed, when the Ghanaian people in 2016 reposed for the first time their confidence in me in the elections of that year, one of the first persons on whom I paid a courtesy call was His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings. From my entry into office, right up to the day he was called by his maker, he remained a good friend and a repository of sound advice. I knew that in moments of difficulty in my presidency, I could count on his considerable wealth of experience and knowledge. On those occasions, he came through for me.
And that's President Akufo-Addo's tribute to him. And many have been, talking about this tribute. When you read comments on social media, some say that was a candid, account of what really existed between the two of them. And I remember that 2012, courtesy call he paid on him at his rich. And President Rawlings, typical of him in humor, said that no more Akwati Tiano. No more Akwati. I remember that very well. And of course, the party was also there. The party that he founded, the NDC, was there. They read a tribute. We can listen to excerpt of that. Hudu Yaya read on behalf of the NDC.
Ghana, Africa, and the world have lost one of those rare leaders who did not put personal aggrandizement over service to the people and nation. President J.J. Rawlings was a leader and a true son of Africa, who was a peace builder in Africa. Ghana was the first African country to move into Liberia to stop the carnage during its civil war, then to Sierra Leone and Guinea with its own resources before the international community joined in. Under Rawlings, Ghana was in Rwanda during its civil war, where over 1 million Rwandese lost their lives. And when all the international community, including the United Nations, withdrew their personnel, President Rawlings ordered our troops under the command of General Anyidohu to stay on and save lives. Your kind is rare, and we are proud that we have benefited from the fountain of your vision and wisdom.
Well, some of his compatriots, and I'm talking about former President Rawlings, his close associates, have been sharing fond memories of the late former president. Former chief of staff during the Rawlings administration, Nana Todazi, has revealed that his fondest memory, having worked for 19 years with the late soldier, was his personal day of shame. He spoke to Joy News' Latif Idris.
I can simply summarize it to say he was a man with passion for truth and justice. And that is why he kept talking about one of his famous comments. I say, Christianize me if you can, but don't westernize me. He didn't want the youth to throw away all this culture that is very, very...
So that's
Nana Todazi, former chief of staff during the...
And you can also keep your comments coming on our WhatsApp console. We'll be sharing some of the messages with you. How do you remember the late former President J.J. Rawlings? But Elton is still with us in the studio. Elton, you spent the entire day, in fact, yesterday as well, you were at the conference center. You spoke to Samuel Atachia, who succeeded President Akufo-Addo as MP at Ebuakwa.
Right.
And he told you something very interesting.
Yes, so remember in 2014, it was John Mahama who was president of the Republic.
Yeah.
Now, in this year of 2014, the former president, whom we are mourning now, filed a writ at an Accra High Court restraining former Ghana's ambassador to the United Kingdom, Professor Danso Boafo, from going ahead with the launch of a book titled J.J. Rawlings and the Democratic Transition in Ghana. And guess who represented the former president in court? Samuel Atachia. So,
interesting.
Yes, so I asked him, how come of all the NDC lawyers at the time, even the NDC was in power, the former president will reach out to him to represent him in court? And this is what he told me.
That is my client lying down lifeless.
Your client how?
Because I had a golden opportunity of taking out a writ in his name against Professor Danso Boafo in relation to a publication that President Rawlings felt that had undermined his credibility and integrity, and he wanted me to arrest that book. So that is when I came in close contact with him, and we became very good friends. And I did that because I was surprised at why would he bypass all the NDC lawyers and come to a known and recognized MPP lawyer like me to come and give me service. But I saw clearance from the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, then opposition member of parliament. I said, look, go and serve him. He served this nation for 19 years. And that association and intimacy I'll never forget.
But politically, the MPP and NDC always oppose. But today you are united in grief. What lessons can the political class learn going forward?
See, I just was enlightened about how democracies die. And one of them is to see your political rivals, they call them competitive, valid, legitimate political rivals as enemies. We are not enemies. one thing is at stake: the welfare of Ghanaians, how Ghana will prosper, how we'll free ourselves from the clutches of poverty. But when we have a hatred dimension to politics, we won't go far. Like, look at what has happened. This, with the greatest of respect, hang parliament, if you want to call it. Are we going to play NDC so that we subvert the course of this country? Are we going to play it in a way that at the end of the day, you realize that Ghana is suffering in the name of partisan politics? That is what probably the death of this great man should tell us, that we should come together and see how best we'll be able to help this great nation of ours.
So that's Samuel Atacha there speaking to Elton Brobe. And let's apologize. Earlier we played the sound of Kofi Adams. I will bring you that sound instead of Nanato.
Oh, we can hear from Kofi Adams, who has been speaking today to Joy News. Kofi Adams, as you know, is Mr. Rawlings' former PA and spokesperson. Yeah. He is now the Member of Parliament for Boem. Well, he's been reacting to the announcement that the UDS will be named after Mr. Rawlings, who, whilst he was alive, insisted that he did not want any monuments named after him.
Yeah. Not that he would not be, the issue is not about whether he'll be happy or not happy. For us who serve him, we are happy for that decision, because every day they will call it Jerry Rawlings University for Development Studies. People will ask, who is Jerry Rawlings? So you'll be able to take them through the story. So our children, grandchildren, and the rest will come to know the name Jerry Rawlings and what he stood for. It's good. But what President Rawlings will love is that his values and his beliefs, we should live them every day in our lives, in our work, in our ethics. That is what he will. That's what will make him happy. Not just naming things after him. If we name them after him, but we end up living a life that is not worthy, that does not measure up to the values of justice, that does not measure up to justice of truth, that will not measure up to justice of our probity and accountability, then we have done nothing for him. He would wish that we live this in our everyday life, in our homes, in our schools, in our workplaces, as political leaders, as media, as religious leaders, all of us will live those ideals. Then he will be happy that truly we have come, and he can rest and rest peacefully.
Kofi Adams there speaking to you about the military cemetery at Burma camp. And a lot of you have been sending your messages. This one from Ralph Cobley says, rest in perfect peace, Legend Rawlings. Your leadership is uncomparable. And this one from Emmanuel also said, rest in peace, Papa J. Kobe also on Facebook says, you will be missed, Papa J. Rest in peace. And those are some of your messages on our Facebook stream. A lot of you have been sending in some on our WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. And this is from Citizen Sikatogo from East Legon. And he says, good evening, news team. Ex-President J.J. Rawlings was a fearless leader, advocate for peace, equality, and accountability for all Ghanaians. As we lay his noble soul to rest this week, we pray that his spirit lives on with us and guides us to our fullest potential as a nation. Also, Malo in Istanbul says, Chairman Rawlings will remain Ghana's most influential and charismatic leader after Osajifo, and he ended the coup d'etat. He stabilized Ghana and he gave us the Fourth Republic. He has left an indelible mark on our history. Demirfa Due.
And so those are some of your comments on the passing of the late former President Jerry John Rawlings. We say that may he so rest in perfect peace. Let's do some politics now. The 2020 NDC presidential candidate John Dramani Mahama will be calling 2 witnesses to testify on his behalf in the election petition. Now, they are the NDC's General Secretary Johnson Asiedu Nketia. And Araba, you remember when Mr. Nketia mounted a witness box in the 2012 election petition. It was quite an interesting session. Now, he will be there again to testify, and then there'll be Dr. Michael Pesa-White as well. So these are the 2 witnesses the NDC will be calling. They are the representatives of Mr. Mahama in the ongoing petition. And of course, Michael Pesa-White was representing the NDC at the National Coalition Center, or what we know as the Strong Room, or at the Electoral Commission headquarters during the December 7 elections. And so these are the 2 who will be called by the NDC to testify.
And as you know, the court on Tuesday served notice that it had the power to sanction Mr. Mahama's legal team, including dismissing the election petition should its orders be disobeyed. So this was after Mr. Mahama's team had failed to obey a January 20 order to file witness statements and legal arguments relating to the initial objection by the respondents. He has now filed it, and our court correspondent Joseph Akable has a copy of those witness statements. He joins us on the line. Joseph, earlier in the petition, Mr. Mahama had indicated he will be calling 5 witnesses, but the court documents show that only 2 witnesses will be testifying.
Yes. In fact, the point that the legal team makes to us is that in terms of the practice, you ideally have to state a higher number, because if the number is quite low and you go over to court, you will not be allowed to exceed that number. And so at the time that they filed the petition, they had indicated in the petition that they'll be calling 5 witnesses. But as it stands now, with the information and everything that they put together, they are proceeding with 2 witnesses. The first is Johnson Ketia, like you mentioned, and he is testifying because of the role he played in terms of the NDC's monitoring of the entire election and its architecture he put in place across all polling stations. Dr. Kwesa White is testifying, as Ernest mentioned, that because he was in the strong room, and in his testimony he recounts various events that transpired which he believes supports Mr. Mahama's petition that no candidate got more than 50% of the votes cast.
How about Johnson Ketia, the General Secretary of the party? Do we know what his testimony will cover?
Very interesting areas. The first is that he makes the point that you know that the interrogatory's ruling, the review is still outstanding. He says, should that particular decision go in favor of Mr. Mahama, he would like to file additional statement in light of the information that the EC will be supplying. So that's the first point that he makes. He goes on to attack the EC chairperson in terms of the declaration that he made on December 9 to make the point that they were riddled with errors, such that if you put together the percentages as he announced them, it comes to 100.3%, which he says is mathematically and statistically impossible. He goes on to say that if the Techiman South results, which were not available at the time the EC chairperson made a declaration, are added to the results of Mr. Mahama, it will result in a situation where no candidate in the election got more than 50% of the votes cast. He now goes a step further to say that the EC chairperson has, since the December 9 declaration, not made any further declarations. The corrections that have been made, he says, are not declarations from the chairperson, who is the returning officer for the presidential elections. He insists that the statements that were issued by the EC are not corrections. He goes on to say that if they were to be corrections, they should have actually notified the political parties for them to participate in this particular exercise of correcting the figures. He now says that by failing to be transparent in terms of involving the political parties, it amounts to a bias, which he believes is as a result of the EC chairperson's close familial relationship with the second respondent's wife. And that portion of the document is specifically in paragraph 26 of Mr. Ketia's witness statement. And I read, it says, the chairperson of the first respondents are also not required under Article 296 of the Constitution to be biased either by resentment, prejudice, or personal dislike in exercising any discretionary power. The chairperson of the first respondent, Mrs. Jane Mensah, allowed herself to be biased by a prejudice in favor of the second respondent, who appointed her in August 2018, with whose wife, Mrs. Jane Mensah, has a close familial relationship. Mrs. Mensah was thus at all material times in the conduct of her responsibilities biased by prejudice in favor of the second respondent and against the petitioner. So he goes on to make the point that as far as he is concerned and what he knows for a fact, no one obtained more than 50% of the votes cast, and the court should grant Mr. Mohammed a request to set aside the declaration of the results.
Joseph, thank you very much, and I know that you will be at the court tomorrow. But before you leave, Araba.
Yes, let's go through the testimony of Dr. Kwesa White. We do know that Dr. Kwesa White was one of the NDC's representatives in the EC's strong room, and he's made several observations. What will he be telling the court?
And so Dr. White makes the point that he discovered in the course of the coalition that was taking place in the strong room that there were errors in the results that were being computed. And so he makes the point that he and Roger Metununu, who was in the strong room on behalf of Mr. Mahama as well, they decided not to append their signatures to the summary sheet that the EC chairperson relied on to undertake the declaration. he makes the point that they did inform the EC chairperson, Jean Mensah, of these errors. He now then goes a step further to make reference to that errand that you recall became a subject of public discussion, saying that the EC chairperson, Jean Mensah, had informed him and Mr. Rojo Metununu to go and discuss the issue with Mr. Mahama and return to report on the latest on what should be done. And he makes the point that they had been given an assurance that if they even required an escort to ensure that they go quickly and come back, and that would be possible. But he says on arrival at Mr. Mahama's residence, they got him only to see on TV that the AC chairperson was proceeding to declare the results. And so he says that those errors that they detected, which they were not allowed to correct through a consultative process, is what resulted in a declaration that, as far as he is concerned, it's a situation where no one got more than 50% of the votes cast. And so this is his testimony to the court. It's worth pointing out that Mr. Mahama's team has also been able to file the legal argument in relation to the initial objection raised by President Akufo-Addo's legal team and the Electoral Commission's legal team. And so it means that as far as the court's orders yesterday are concerned, they have been complied with fully.
So you're talking about the preliminary objection to the petition itself?
Yes, Ernest. And in the arguments that have been filed on behalf of Mr. Mahama, the lawyers make the point that they disagree with President Akufo-Addo and the EC's lawyers' position that their petition does not raise a reasonable cause of action. They insist that there are serious issues that question the constitutional requirement of a candidate having to obtain more than 50% of the vote cast before that candidate is declared as winner. So they believe that there is a serious issue that the court should look into. You recall that the court had served notice that it is not going to rule on this initial objection, but rather it will incorporate it in its judgment. And so it will mean that the trial will proceed. We also know that there are some other outstanding issues that will be dealt with tomorrow. Yeah. So the first is that there is also a request asking that the interrogatories review that they have filed, they be allowed to file additional documents. That is, Mr. Mahama's team, they are allowed to file additional documents to support that particular review. That remains outstanding. The review itself is also outstanding, which, if it is heard, you have two justices join the 7-member panel to hear and determine that particular issue. And so, even after that, there's also a debate about asking the EC chair to admit to certain facts, which is different from the interrogatories that they wanted to administer. Right. So that is also another issue that is also equally outstanding. Before the petition itself, where many people are looking forward to Mr. Sherry Ketia, Dr. Pesawa going into the witness box and being subjected to questions and being allowed to testify in the court as well.
Thank you, Joseph, for bringing us all those details.
People will be looking forward to that.
And it is tomorrow. Yes, and
exactly.
Joseph will be there.
We're bringing you live updates of that hearing.
Absolutely. Let's talk COVID-19 now, Araba. We have more reason now to mask up and to observe all the
As if we needed any other reason.
Well, there are some people who still do not believe that, COVID is real and all of that. So we have to give them some more reason to do what is right.
How about erectile dysfunction?
Yeah. So think about that if you're a man listening to me. Now, that is one of the side effects or post-COVID effects for men who get infected with COVID-19. So we have erectile dysfunction, general fatigue. There's also the regular post-COVID syndrome, which is, the effect that it places on your lungs and your heart condition and all of that. These are some of the things that have been identified with persons who have been infected and recovered from COVID-19. We can hear from the Deputy General Secretary of the GMA, who says that this presents a real challenge.
Yeah, I was saying that there are people who are documented athletes who have even run race, marathon, who can now barely walk like 100 meters without having to stand and then gasp for breath. And then documented changes in the heart muscle. That may account for why people become easily breathless. Weeks after, months after COVID, imaging studies have shown that the lung tissue does not return to its normal level. And so your capacity to exchange oxygen with carbon dioxide and some of these damages is being studied to see whether they will ever fully correct or you may never achieve a full correction of them. If you know the principle of attaining an erection, there are psychological components, there are nervous components, and there are blood vessel related issues. Each of these could account for it, but it has been documented. Erectile dysfunction has been documented.
Meanwhile, Dr. Bayo is also cautioning against fist bumps and other body-to-body greetings in place of the traditional handshake. He explains that viral particles deposited in the groove of the elbow could be passed on through touch. He wants people to avoid elbow greetings altogether.
traditionally, if you are greeting someone with the elbow, you'll be using the back of the elbow, the bony part, to touch the person. The two are on opposite sides. However, there is the potential that if you sneeze viral particles over that groove of your elbow, it can certainly move and you can find it on the other side. In the event that you don't have a tissue and you have to sneeze in public, to contain it and don't spread it, then in the groove of your elbow is a second best alternative. In that case, it is best not to go giving people the elbow shake at all.
So that's Dr. Titus Bayo. He is on the line to shed more light on this for us. So, Doc, how widespread are these complications that we are hearing of, erectile dysfunctions and the like?
Good evening, and good evening to your listeners. I really, really wish that we will focus on the more prevalent things. The erectile dysfunction is a minor in terms of prevalence. If you look at the post-COVID syndromes, like I said, COVID itself is a disease in evolution that we are still studying and trying to understand. The most common side effect or long-term effect after people have recovered from COVID that they complain about really are the respiratory problems, the heart issues, the chronic fatigue, difficulty in breathing or exerting themselves for a longer period. These are the very common ones. Yes, potentially erectile dysfunction is a possibility. It's something that has been mentioned, has been studied, has been published in relation to COVID. But it's not the most prevalent. And I think since it was raised by our vice president, it looks like that has become the main issue. Obviously, for the concern it raises among the male section of our population. But yes, if that is what will cause people to adhere to the COVID protocols, then we will encourage it because, yes, even if it is 0.01%, it may still affect someone. And therefore, people must be careful. But it is not one of the most common post-COVID syndromes.
Oh, that's heartwarming to know. But for those with these complications, the heart problems and the erectile dysfunction, how can they be helped?
So for the heart problems, it is something that is still being developed, being studied. For instance, the structural changes have been observed in the heart muscle after COVID. How long this lasts, we are still not sure. So as you know, the COVID has just been with us a little over a year. So we don't know whether this will last for months, for the rest of their lives, or to return back to normal. It's something still in studies. Now, for things like the erectile dysfunction, the various pathophysiological mechanisms, or what explains why somebody may get erectile dysfunction as part of post-COVID syndrome, will tell you that psychological stress is one, because the psychological component of COVID is significant, and we should never underrate it. People who get COVID get depressed. The isolation can get you depressed. The thought of it, knowing that people are dying from it, can give you anxiety. So there are a lot of psychological problems, and that can lead to erectile dysfunction. And therefore, if you manage those psychological problems, hopefully you should be able to get your erectile function back. Then there are hemodynamic issues or pulmonary dynamic factors. And then there are some what we call subclinical hypogonadism, where the hormones that we secrete as men to make us potent, their secretion may go down as a result of the COVID complications. Depending on which of these factors is explaining this cause, something like the erectile dysfunction, if it is a known mechanism, can be corrected. If it's psychological and you see a clinical psychologist and you are managed, hopefully you should be able to come back to normal. If it is something that is due to low levels of hormones, these hormones may be replaced with medications and people can come back to very normal function. But if there are things that are structural, that the damage becomes permanent, there may be something that may be challenging. But even that, the specialists who handle these things are the urologists. So if anybody is harboring such a problem or is concerned about it, our colleagues who handle this are the urologists. And I think someone can make a consult and see them.
Right. Dr. Titus Bayo, so grateful for your time. He's the Deputy General Secretary of the GMA.
So I guess the point is that you may not be lucky because
Exactly.
you would not know the extent of damage this might cause you. So
simply
save yourself the trouble. Just mask up, observe the COVID-19 protocols, and you'll be fine. And there are people who are sending us messages saying that the erectile dysfunction is not just a problem of men. Some of the women are also concerned about that. So the wives are concerned.
Why is it that every time men have problems, they want to rope in women? Why
No, but the women are concerned.
Are they?
People in the newsroom are concerned. They've actually asked me to tell you. You're listening to Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM. We're taking a break for business, but when we return, hydrogen peroxide now in short supply on the Ghanaian market after the publication showing that its use for gargling may help to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in the lungs.
And a number of our colleagues in the research team who work in healthcare institutions, have been using hydrogen peroxide. None of them has come down with the disease.
We'll bring you details after business with Charles. And Charles is here. Charles, I'm sure you don't want anything to do with erectile dysfunction.
Not at all.
What do you have for us in business?
Well, coming up in business, we explore the economic legacy of the late Jerry Rawlings, especially when most of his reforms contributed to Ghana's economic development. That plus many others coming up in business tonight. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MT, and welcome to a new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essential. First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you?
70 countries worldwide. Allianz Life Insurance Ghana, a subsidiary of Allianz Group, has put together a wide range of insurance packages to suit the pockets of every Ghanaian individual, family, group, corporate body, as well as their employees. Kindly call us on 030-2267-892 or 059-144-9686 or visit our website www.allianz-gh.com for more enquiries. Allianz Life, we secure your future.
Hope you have heard rent to own now in Ghana. The Plan City Extension Project, Rent to Own Land and House Ownership Scheme by the Ningo Prampram District Assembly and its partners, supported by the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development and the UN Habitat, are right here in Ghana. So be smart because where you trade and live really matters. Apply now and own a home or a fully serviced land. Wait a minute Don't forget to join our affiliate housing cooperatives also. Special offers last until 31st March 2021. Call us on 055 55 3300 or 0577 911101 and 055 7054 635. Website newaccra.city. Plan City Extension Project, shaping Ghana's urban future.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHF, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Look at you, the big boss.
You know they here.
You know they fear who?
until somebody says, I will tell your mother.
That's why we say wear a mask, or else
we will call your mother.
Hey, why are you disgracing me? Why your mask?
wear it for her. Wear it for me everywhere you go. MTN.
Joy 99.7 FM, radio for the discerning listener.
And you're welcome to Business on Newsnight. Now, the late President Jerry Rawlings is going down in history as one of the longest-serving heads of state in Ghana. But how did his reign influence Ghana's economic architecture, especially when the country has gradually migrated to a lower middle-income status? Take a listen to the biography read to us today during the state burial by Eric Bevlo.
Jerry Rawlings focused on implementing human-centered development policies in order to improve the health, nutritional status, and longevity of Ghanaians, where almost 40% of total public expenditure was allocated to education and the health sector alone. The ultimate aim was to create a socially equitable system of health for Ghanaians. In the area of rural development, vigorous and comprehensive rural development programs were realized. Electrification, which was available to less than 20% of Ghana's population, was extended to all 10 regions at the time and every district. While embarking on rural development programs policies were implemented to expand Ghana's middle-income group. With food security a priority for Rawlings, agricultural policies were initiated that resulted in the recognition of Ghana's food production growth of 148% for the period between 1995 to 1997, and on the record after Jordan, 157%, and China, 156%, in the World Bank's 1999 to 2000 development report.
And that's Mr. Bevlo there with the biography of the late Jerry Rawlings. Now, the International Monetary Fund is forecasting an end-year inflation or consumer prices at 8.7%. That signals a likely ease in the cost of loans in the country this year. So how will this impact consumer and business spending? Charles Nixon Yeboah has more.
This is consistent with Fitch Solutions' 8.5% forecast, and it comes at a time when the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana is holding its 98th meeting to review development in the economy. There are high expectations for a slight drop in lending rates for the next 3 months. Inflation, which is an increase in the overall prices of goods and services in an economy, is an important determinant in the cost of borrowing, and therefore the Bank of Ghana views it as crucial in pricing its base lending rate. The expected lower inflation will boost the economy, hence encouraging savings, investment, and also deepen the nation's international competitiveness. It will also facilitate the cost of doing business for companies and as a result increase their profit margins. An increase in the bottom lines of enterprises will also trigger expansion and job creation. Coupled with other economic indicators, a lower inflation will stimulate stock market activities and shore up share prices. Inflation will remain within the 9 and 10% bracket for the greater part of last year. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, financial services, recreation, sport and culture, as well as education services inflation remained very low in 2020.
And that's Charles Nixon Yeboah's report, ending business on Newsnight.
Thank you very much, Charles, for bringing us the latest in the world of business. And some of you have been sharing your messages with us on WhatsApp.
Yes, and Abdul Aziz Nindo Katochi in Tema writes, "Good evening, Araba. The death of Chairman Rawlings is a serious blow on our country, Ghana. He has left a legacy that can never be forgotten, and it is time for Ghanaians to emulate him. Rest well, Papa J."
And Nana Ikuya Amwatin Ablik Masencho says, "Good evening, Ernest. Today is a sad moment in the history of Ghana. We pray that God keeps Papa J in a safe place. Anyway, please let's observe COVID-19 safety protocols and stay safe." And that's right. Thank you very much, Nana Ikuya.
And Sami from Kumasi is asking, why is President Akufo-Addo naming UDS after the late J.J. Rawlings after his death? We heard many times when he was alive, he rejected attempts to name UDS after him. Why now? And that's from Sami in Kumasi. Well, Sami, you may have heard Kofi Adams respond to that as well.
And the president did say that they consulted the family and they're happy with that decision. You're listening to Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM. Now, former President John Dramani Mahama has called on the public to strictly adhere to the COVID-19 protocols as a measure of stemming the spread. His call comes at a time when the country's COVID-19 active cases have more than doubled since the beginning of this year. Mr. Mahama made the call at a lecture organized by the NDC in honor of the late former President Jerry John Rawlings.
We should take it seriously. It's not easy. The rate at which people are passing away is something that we should look at. There's asymptomatic COVID. So there are people who get infected but show no symptoms, no fever, no cold, nothing. But they're able to spread it. And so even though he's asymptomatic, he can spread it to the next person. You know that the new variant is more easily transmissible than the old variant of the virus. And you don't know who it will take out and who it will leave. And so let's be on our guard, keep your mask on, continue to sanitize and wash your hands, and keep a safe distance, when you're in gatherings. Don't go into mass gatherings where there are too many people. Try and stay, a distance away from people. And there are a lot of people who come and want to talk. And when they're going to talk to you, they rather bring down the mask. I mean, what is the use of the mask? If you bring it down when you're coming close to a person to come and talk, you're just virtually, if you are asymptomatic or whatever, spreading the virus to somebody else. And so we should keep our mask on, keep social distancing. If you want to take your mask off, then increase the distance between the two of you who are talking.
Former President John Dramani Mahama there. The Pharmacy Council and the Food and Drugs Authority are worried there's a shortage of hydrogen peroxide on the market, giving rise to the sale of fake brands of the disinfectant. Now, this is coming after researchers had discovered that using the liquid as mouth gargle could reduce the transmission of the virus from the mouth in the lungs. Now, into the lungs. The statement issued by the FDA jointly with the Pharmacy Council encourages the public to report suspicious medicines to the authority. Elton Bobby has a copy of that statement. Elton, what are the other details?
So the other point is that the general public is being reminded. The general public is being reminded to purchase only Food and Drugs Authority approved hydrogen peroxide and other medicinal products, and be on the lookout for the mandatory FDA registration numbers on such products if they are manufactured in Ghana. So that's what they're saying. They say that they've done joint monitoring exercise and they have come to the conclusion that the panic buying has given rise to the sale of some fake and substandard medicine on the market. Araba.
Perhaps there's panic buying because, as the university professors say, the inclusion of hydrogen peroxide in the management of COVID could potentially save lives. Actually, we've been speaking to some virologists. One of them, Dr. Kwame Nasego, tells us how to administer it.
If you gargle and there are any of the viruses attached to your epithelial cells in your upper respiratory tract, which have not established an infection, or which have even established an infection are coming out to try to spread, that hydrogen peroxide will inactivate them and reduce the amount that are likely to spread further down into your lungs or further spread in your respiratory tract. So what we're recommending is that 3% is harsh. What we're recommending is for you to use just 1% to gargle. 1% meaning that if you take one part of the hydrogen, most of the bottles on the counters are 6%. Mm-hmm. So if you take one part of it, you add 5 parts of water.
You swallow the substance. What's the danger?
It can give you irritation in your stomach because of the nature of the disease. So the idea is that the reason why we are recommending that you should reduce the concentration to 1% is to be able to take care of the possible irritation. But you are supposed to gargle and pour out.
So that's Dr. Kwame Nasego. He's a virologist at the University of Ghana Medical School. And you heard him. Please do not swallow the hydrogen peroxide. You just take one bit of it and 5 bits of water, mix it, and then gargle and throw it out. Do not swallow.
And Araba, we hope that it doesn't become as expensive as vitamin C was in the peak of the pandemic, especially during the lockdown So if we have to increase production, why not? But then let's be careful in how we use it. That's the most important thing. Time for sports, and Hans Mensado is here. Hello, Hans.
Hi, Ernest, and I'm sitting here, worried that people are not going to be swallowing it like Araba, is advice. And
especially for kids, it's not advised that you even administer because many of them cannot gargle.
You can mistakenly ingest it, and we know how hydrogen peroxide and how dangerous it can be. But, let's just hope that people are going to use it the right way. Let's do sports now. Ngalka chairman Kojo Fiano has charged the Ghanaian Premier League clubs to pay their players well if they intend to keep them in the country for a longer period. He was speaking in an interview with Joy Sports.
We want to see our staff. The clubs must do well to keep the players here because the fans will want to see them. So what we need to do is to ensure that we get enough money to keep them here. It's a sad spectacle. We're losing our players to Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia. It is all because we are not paying the players well. When we pay them well, they will prefer to stay in Ghana than going outside. You see Ghanaian players playing in Bangladesh. It's a sad spectacle, but what do? We can only sell those players to make money to take care of the rest.
Kojo Fiano is the chairman of the Ghana League Clubs Association, and in the Premier League, it's currently goalless at Stamford Bridge between Chelsea and Wolverhampton Wanderers in Thomas Tuchel's first game in charge of the Blues. Later at 8 p.m., Everton will play against Leicester. Manchester United will take on Sheffield United. That's your sports.
Thank you very much, Hans, for bringing us sports. Now, the Ghana Medical Association is calling for investigations into growing resentment among caregivers at the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital over the management of COVID-19 cases at the facility. It follows a Joy News report with detailed concerns by the caregivers at the Child Health Directorate that the poor management of COVID-19 positive cases is putting their lives and that of the other patients at risk.
And that report was brought by Ohim Ntebia. Well, he says the Ghana Medical Association says the issues raised by the medical staff should not be treated lightly. We'll speak to the leadership in a bit, but here's Ohim Ntebia's report on the situation.
Some doctors and nurses at the Child Health Directorate of the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital have revealed there is no concerted effort by management to either test staff who come into contact with COVID-19 positive cases or close down wards for fumigation. A nurse who spoke on condition of anonymity says the over 400 caregivers are compelled to work without the right protective gear. She insists medical staff who voice out their concerns could become targets and victimized.
We know that COVID-19 should be managed, 1, in an isolation, 2, by trained professionals, and 3, with specific PPEs. And all these 3 things are being lacked. We initially had suspected, and getting results was a problem. Finally, when they became confirmed, we had to manage them on the ward. Because as we are being told, there is currently no trained personnel and no specific place to keep those patients. So they were being managed on the ward. In the first place, we don't even have social distancing on the ward because the wards are full. We had to manage these patients side by side with the average normal sick patients.
According to her, who voice out their concerns could become targets and victimized. The Ghana Medical Association says the issues raised by the caregivers borders on life and death and should not be glossed over. Dr. Pakwesi Bedu is the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the GMA.
Any issue that borders on threats of life is very serious.
And that was Ohim Ntebia's report there. And thankfully, we were joined on the lines by the Ashanti Regional GMA President, Dr. Pakwesi Bedu, for more on this. I'm sure you heard the caregivers. Their major concern is that their lives are at risk because of the poor management of the COVID-19 positive cases. Have these concerns come to your attention?
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Bedu.
Yes, madam.
I'm asking if the concerns of these health workers, have they reached out to the GMA yet on these concerns?
Yeah, good evening, Araba, and good evening to your listeners. Yes, this morning I was with one of your affiliates, multimedia affiliate, and it came up. And I stated that these concerns should, if really true, should never be swept under the carpet and shouldn't be swept under the carpet in that they are quite serious. And luckily, the PRO of Konfarachi Teaching Hospital phoned into the program and indicated that the hospital management will be responding to that through a press conference this afternoon. And I will appreciate because Himinteria was invited to that meeting. Unfortunately, I was in the operating room or theater operating, and I just finished, so I was not able to attend the meeting. I'm yet to find out what issues were discussed and how this issue was addressed. And I'm sure since Himinteria was there, he will be able to address that.
All right,
issue.
we'll be getting updates on that. But your members are at the front line. Tell us what's been the COVID-19 infection situation among your members this year.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, the network is quite bad.
I apologize for that. I'm asking about the COVID-19 infection situation. What are the statistics with regards to infection among your members this year?
We've been collecting databases. Unfortunately, I didn't know this would come up, so I didn't prepare for it. But I can't readily give you the figures in terms of how many doctors. Any figure I have to put up out should be accurate. And I don't really have the figure now. If you give me a couple of minutes from tomorrow, I'll be able to those figures in terms of the infections among doctors, nurses, pharmacists. In fact, not just Konfarachi, but within the region, because the GMA is for the whole region, and we collect that data.
All right.
Doctor, I tell you that I know most of our colleagues are coming down with it. I can't give you the specific figures I said, but a lot of our doctors are coming down with COVID-19 infection, in fact, during the second wave. I may be able to get your outfit the figures, I'm sure, by tomorrow.
All right, many thanks. That's the Ashanti Regional Ghana Medical Association President, Dr. Pakwesi Bedu there.
And definitely we'll be following up on some of these issues here later in our subsequent bulletins. And we'll be wrapping up Newsnight. That's it. We've run out of time. That's it for Newsnight. Just before we go, I'd like to say that thank you for listening. Remember to brush your teeth with Pepsodent, because every smile matters. My name is Ernest Manu.
And I'm Araba Koomson, and of course, we leave you with some sounds of the man fondly known as Junior Jesus, Jerry John Rawlings.